even more dangerous. The oceans are the planet's largest carbon sink, nature's primary mechanism for absorbing CO2 out of the atmosphere. But lately, there are indications these systems are breaking down. Under normal conditions, tiny sea creatures like forams and coccolithophores absorb carbon out of the water and use it to build their shells and skeletons. But there is a tipping point when too much CO2 in the oceans turns the water increasingly acidic. Acidification dissolves the creature's shells and skeletons and prevents them from absorbing more CO2 out of the water to build new ones. Some of these tiny animals at the bottom of the food chain measure only a fraction of an inch. But the fate of all sea creatures, of all shapes and sizes, larger and larger, hangs in the balance. Alter the ocean's chemistry, and nature's primary mechanism for controlling the climate begins to break down.
You lose a coral reef, you lose perhaps 500,000 species. You lose those little coccolithophores, these little algae, and you start to lose things that are very important to life on this planet. We're losing some of the most vital elements of the way the world works, and that's got us all concerned.
Scientists half a world away share those concerns. They're investigating global warming at the climate's opposite extreme. It took nature 150,000 years to make the Great Greenland Ice Sheet that's now melting into the sea faster than at any time in history. As it disappears, rising oceans will flood coastal cities around the world. Greenland's Jakobshavn Glacier is the fastest moving ice field on the planet, more than 130 feet per day, melting into the sea twice as fast as a decade ago. In just 2 days, the amount of ice breaking off the glacier contains enough water for the New York metropolitan area for 1 year.
One of the greatest concerns about what will happen if the planet continues to get warmer is the stability of the ice sheets. And the danger is that the ice sheet could begin to collapse very rapidly.
Rising temperatures are transforming one of the Earth's harshest climates, disrupting the way people have lived in Greenland for hundreds of years. For as long as anyone can remember, sled dogs have been a symbol of wealth here and a necessity for survival, especially for hunting across the winter sea ice. When the winter ice started thinning, dogs became an expense most islanders couldn't afford. In this town of 4,500 people, there are 4,000 dogs, with very little to do these days. Many are starving. Some are being put down. Marit Holm is one of Greenland's 5 veterinarians. As she patrols the town of Ilulissat, she sees the impact of climate change in every sled dog without a sled to pull.
So that's what I do. I drive around and look after the dogs. The snow melting up in the mountains, you know, and suddenly the dogs' place are filled up with water and they don't have any place to lay down. The dogs are hungry, so I have to be a little bit careful not to get bitten. And when the dogs are hungry, you know, they are a little bit more dangerous to people and kids walking around. It doesn't seem to be sick. It's very skinny. So I have to try to find out who's the owner and talk to him.
These animals were once in peak physical condition. They served a vital purpose in their owners' lives.
That's a thing of the past, and we don't see any young people who takes some dogs and live as a fisherman and a hunter.
Dogs have been in Finn Sistel's family as long as he can remember. He finally gave up his team of 19 just in the last few years.
In the winter, even though it was an impossible thing to do about 20 years ago, most of the fishermen go out with a boat today instead of dog sledge.
When Finn was growing up, this was their winter hunting ground. Solid ice for more than half the year.
Everything happens so fast. It's so visible, you don't have to be a scientist to determine what's happening.
With each passing season, Finn watches as traditions locked in the ice melt away.
There's something interesting in the side because you can see small bubbles. And these bubbles are older than all living creatures in the world. And you can listen to it. Because the bubbles are so compressed. And when they get out, it's like popping. You can talk to the ice.
That's what an intrepid team of scientists does once a year. Fly into Greenland's interior to listen to the ice. Swiss Camp is a scientific research installation built directly into the glacier to track climate change. Dr. Conrad Steffens leads the team that has to dig out every spring. Lately, he's found areas of the glacier that hadn't melted in thousands of years, covered in water every summer.
I just checked the weather station, and guess what?
What?
It's not getting colder.
Oh, why not?
Yeah, we have record temperatures again in early January.
Some experts predict 2 degrees of warming could be enough to dismantle the glacier completely, but that would take thousands of years. Steffens suspects we could reach a tipping point much more rapidly, within the next 50 years, when melting would become unstoppable. To find out, he must venture even further out across the ice sheet. Steffens has erected 23 full-service weather stations that take a complete range of climate measurements every 15 seconds, updating global warming computer models all over the world.
The ice sheet is very old. It's over 150,000 years old. If we start to remove it, then we actually start a process that is unknown to civilization. We have never seen Greenland disappearing. Watch it, watch it, watch it.
In 1992, 3.5 miles of glacier was slipping into the sea and disappearing. 10 years later, that number more than doubled to 7.8 miles annually. Steffens wouldn't understand how warmer weather affects the speed of glaciers until he came upon one of the strangest and most dangerous features of this forbidding landscape. Rivers of melted ice are cascading straight down into the glacier, creating huge tunnels called moulins. The team lowers a fiber optic camera. Their hypothesis? that meltwater has cut all the way through to the bedrock a quarter of a mile below and is lubricating the underside of the glacier, propelling it faster and faster into the sea.
50 meters! My God!
60 meters. 70 meters.
For Steffens and his team, it is a chilling moment. This shaft, and many like it, go all the way through the glacier, revealing a whole new mechanism for speeding the ice sheet's disappearance. It's melting so rapidly now, oceans could rise as much as 3 or 4 feet over the next century. The consequences could be catastrophic.
The Greenland ice sheet actually contains enough frozen water to raise global sea levels by about 7 meters, which is enough to flood most of London, Bangkok, New York, Shanghai, you name it.
Many scientists focus on 2 degrees of warming as the tipping point that will fundamentally change how we live on this planet.
We are very close to the slippery slope right now. Some scientists already say it's probably too late to save the Arctic. I don't agree with that, but I do think we're very close to going to a situation where we would have no ice in the Arctic in the warm season.
This could be where global warming becomes a runaway train. Warming accelerates the loss of polar ice. The loss of ice accelerates warming. More water from melting ice absorbs more of the sun's heat, melting the ice sheet and heating the planet even faster. The warmer it gets, the faster it gets warmer. That's when global warming becomes a chain reaction we can't easily predict. Many solutions already available could, in combination, avoid the +2 degree tipping point. They add up quickly. From switching to fluorescent light bulbs to increasing the efficiency of the world's coal power plants by just 20%. Together, solutions like these can have an enormous impact before we start making irreversible changes to the Earth's primary climate control systems. If a rise of 2 degrees doesn't push the planet to the tipping point, many scientists predict 3 degrees will. If the world warms by 3 degrees, the Arctic is ice-free all summer. The Amazon rainforest is drying out. Snow caps on the Alps all but disappear. El Niño's extreme weather patterns become the status quo. The Mediterranean and parts of Europe wither in searing summer heat. This could be our world +3 degrees.
In a 3-degree warmer world, these kinds of summer heat waves will just be the norm. So an extremely hot summer by this point will actually bring the kinds of temperatures into Central Europe that you now experience in the Middle East and in Northern Africa.
The summer of 2003 may have opened a window onto life in a world that's 3 degrees warmer.